Well, we're up here on peg 70 on the Bonsai, probably one of the most famous pegs on the lake over the years. It's won a hell of a lot of money in that time. So today's plan is to go through a bit of method feeder fishing. It's going to differ slightly to the one we did on the Laurels. We'll be fishing what would be sort of more of a traditional style flatbed method feeder with the frame. And we're going to be fishing with ground bait and maggots, which is a tactic what works very well on this lake throughout the warmer months. We're just coming into that slightly better period. We're end of March, getting towards early April, so bit of luck, we'll get a few pulls on it, be able to show you the mix and how I go about doing it. So we'll quickly get some bait mixed up, show you what we're going to be using, and then we'll run you through the kit for the day. So bait wise for method, as always, keep it nice and simple and you'll be able to work out what's happening better on the day. So hopefully we're going to catch them with ground bait around the feeder. Nice bit of attraction, bit of a cloud, lots of smell to bring them into the peg. So the mix we've gone for is one you'll have seen a lot of the dynamite anglers use. Green swim sim and marine halibut mix 50-50. Absolute perfect for any style of method feeder, fishing, margin fishing. The marine halibut, nice heavy mixer, going to help it stick around that feed and make the fish feed from your little pile of bait. And the green needs no introduction, it's probably one of the most famous ground baits of all time. And just brilliant for us to just darkening that mix off slightly, and also it's a great attractor in its own right. And the only other bait, a few Lindholme micro pellets. Whole idea of them, just to add a bit of food value to the mix. Ground bait's brilliant, but there's not a lot of food in terms of particles within it, so that's my attractor to hopefully draw the fish in the peg, and then my micros are my food to keep them there once they're in the peg. I might have to play about with my ratios of each on the day, but a bit of luck we'll be able to have a talk through that when we get fishing and tweak it as we go throughout the day. So mixing the ground bait, you don't need a hell of a lot, so just a 50-50 mix. So do half a bag of green swim stim, half a bag of marine halibut, then because you've got two separate dry ingredients, just blend them together so you get a nice even mix. Sorry about the geese in the background, just going a bit crazy. So see, they're mixed together now, and what you don't want to do is overwet the mix too much. So what you find then is it becomes spongy and it's going to break off your method feeder very easily. So just really gradually add your water. A little bit there, so just a little bit more. And it's not something you can get right within a couple of minutes, it's something you're going to have to keep coming back to and tweaking even throughout the day once you finish the mix and it dries out. So you see there, just nice and sticky, one squeeze, it's going to create a nice solid mix that's going to bind around that feeder really well. So we'll set a bit of kit up, give that 10 minutes to soak, and then we'll come back to it. So we've just given that ground bait a bit of time to stand, and as you can see it's just dried out slightly. So just wants a tiny little bit of water. I don't want it fully saturated and spongy, because what you find is your mix breaks up off your feeder too quickly. I want it to bind to make them fish eat out the feeder, so we're going to pick my hook bait up faster. So just tiny bit of water, just work it in, as you can see. Lovely, one squeeze and it's like a little rock. So as always, any ground bait, just quickly sticking through a riddle. Just takes out all them lumps. Also means your mix is going to break up evenly around your feeder. And you can get through quite a bit of bait doing this. Hello duck. Because it's not sort of the same as big carp method feeder fishing. We might be fishing for 60, 70, 100 fish at times on this tactic on this lake. So it's a case of casting every minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes when the fishing's good, but today probably every 4 or 5 minutes. It's like a zoo in the background. So just stuck the mix through there. See, it's nicely fine down, perfect for sticking around that feeder. Just pop him back in there, so he's all ready to go. Then now I need to do my micro pellets, and as in previous videos before where I've just soaked them and covered them, I'm not looking for this now around a method feeder, because I feel like you take a lot of the binding property out of the micros. With a hybrid style feeder, you're looking for them to swell out the bowl and then they're accessible to the fish. With this, I need them as sticky as possible because of the way the method feeder works. The bait's exposed, so I need to protect that bait and keep it with the feeder. So literally completely flood your pellets in water, give them a swish around, make sure they all get a nice even coating. I'm literally going to give them 20-30 seconds and drain all that water off. And then what you find is you still keep a nice crunchy micro rather than a fully expanded soft one. Keep a nice dense micro, what's going to help sticking that feeder a bit better. And also, as we all know, fishery micros vary very much from batch to batch, and this is just a nice foolproof way of doing it, and I can tweak them on the bank if I need to. So make sure all that water goes out. Just take your time with it, make sure it's right. It's the most important part of the mix. That's it, ready to go. And the only other bait I've got on my tray is some dead maggots from the hook. So we'll have a quick run through the kit, where we're going to fish, and hopefully we'll get a few pulls. So in terms of the setup, nice 9-foot Acolyte Plus. We're only chucking 20-22 metres today, so we don't need anything too overgunned. Nice 3000 size reel, 6 pound specimen camo line, down to a nice little 30 gram method feeder and a bead. And I'm going to start off on a 4-inch hook length of 0.15 to a size 16 T9 11, and just a double maggot on the hook. The idea of that slightly bigger hook is obviously I'm going to be hooking the maggots. I find that's really important rather than hair rigging them or anything like that. So I can get away with that slightly larger hook because my bait's going to be impeding my hook ever so slightly. So show you the mix we're going to start with, and then we'll have his first cast and hopefully we'll catch a few fish. So as you can see here, I've got 3 tubs. One with ground bait, one with my micros, which are just nice and soaked but with crunchy still, but nice and tacky. And then an empty tub. So that's going to be my working tub, what I'm going to play with throughout the day. Initially, I want to start with quite a large amount of ground bait to attract the fish into the peg. And then I might have to vary it as we go through, but probably start 2 to 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 handfuls of pellets. So that's my mix initially. Work them all in. And you see how there's quite a few micros, so that's going to keep the fish digging around in the peg and rooting around. So it's hopefully going to hold them for a bit longer, so I'm going to catch more. I've not done a massive mix of that. There's probably only a pint or so of bait, so if I find that's not right, I can go back, start again and tweak my mix as I need. If I find I'm not getting enough fish coming in the peg, I might add more ground bait for more attraction. Or if I find I'm getting a lot of liners very quickly and then running out of indications without getting a bite, I'll add more micros to try hold them. Obviously that's going to vary each day. And then all I've got here, some red and white maggots for the hook. And so that's it, nothing too complicated, but everything's there for a reason, nice and simple. And hopefully we'll be able to kick off and catch a few fish. We'll kick off with just 1, 2 maggots for the hook. Hook through the thin end just to leave as much hook showing as possible. Then into a mixing tub, so I just want to ever so slightly fill the bottom to cover my maggots with my feeder, lay my bait within it and just overfill the mould and just press it down. Ensure your hook length comes out the back of the feeder so it's all pointing the same way, and then you can't press this in too hard. So as you see, nice dense little mix that's going to stay around that feeder lovely on the cast. and that's a perfect little trap to kick off with. So we'll just load the feeder up. We've had a couple of casts, caught a couple of fish. I think we've had 2 or 3 F1s and a carp. Load that feeder up with that ground bait and micro mix. 2 dead red maggots on the hook. We're just casting where the island cuts back ever so slightly. And all we're trying to do is plop it as tight as we can to there. Because when we've done some work on the islands and things, it's quite deep tight up there. It's probably 2.5 to 3 foot, which is plenty of depth for them fish to come into this time of year. And all I'm doing is keeping an eye out for any indications on my tip to tell me if some fish are let out my feeder. Obviously, the quicker we're getting signs and things, we know those fish are coming to that bait quite quickly, so we're going to have shorter casts. If we're having to wait 4 or 5 minutes for a bite, we'll leave it in a bit longer. Beauty in maggots is, as well, you can tell if any small fish are in your peg, or, well, it gives you a very good reading of what is actually in your peg, so that's a bite. So you've not had to wait very long at all. The fact that we're getting bites so quick tells us that ground bait is probably the right way to go today rather than the micro pellets. If I was having to wait ages for a bite or struggling for an indication, it'd tell you that we would probably be better off fishing pellets around the feeder as they're not coming to the ground bait. Just let the fish tell you, they dictate everything to us. So if you're getting bites, you know you're going along the right lines. Nice little F1. Smacking the bottom lip just where we want him. Load up again. 2 maggots. And then repeat process. That bite was nice and quick, so hopefully we're in for a good day. Slightly to the left, that one. The wind's a bit of a nightmare today, smack across us, so just got to account for that ever so slightly when we're casting. Get that next feeder half ready, half fill your mould. And keep your eye on that tip, looking for any indications. Hopefully as we go on and we build the peg along, we'll catch some of them bigger carp and F1s that often live around this bay. So we'll keep plodding away. Little sign then. It's all good, it's all showing us that they are coming to that feeder and it is that ground bait that they're wanting round it. There's a few things we can mess about with as we get further into the session, but just play it by ear at the minute. You have to remember it is still, well, it's middle of March. It isn't going to be one every single bung in. See, he's just dropped back ever so slightly and there's one on. Feels a bit better fish. Just on something there, it's just come out. Be a bit of line or something. Quite old these islands now. But he's come out, so that's the main thing. If we get a few problems with that, we'll just have to move spot. Start again. Go, bit bigger F1. Hold him up for you, show him. Just unhook him. and they tend to be your bread and butter fish on this. Them sort of £1.5, £2 F1s with an odd carp mixed in just to boost your weight up. So for the minute, I've not really got any reason to change anything. I'm quite happy with how it's going. Had 2 fish in 2 chucks, nice quick bite time, so we're not a million miles off in terms of a mix. So we'll get this one back out and then give you a little update if anything changes. So that mix is just drying out ever so slightly, so rather than going through a process of riddling and everything, little atomizer bottle, just give me a quick squirt, whizzing round. This helps you keep that breakdown of the mix how you want it and helps it bind around that feeder. And he should be perfect again now. Big thing is, the mix is not going to stay the same for the full duration of your session. Obviously you can see today, the wind's up, it's blowing a gale, that's going to dry your mix out, so always try keep in touch with it, whether you have to add more dry ground bait if you've overdone it, or give it a little spray with the atomizer if it starts drying out. Always make sure it's working how you want it rather than just making do, because it'll make a big difference to what you catch come the end of the day. A little liner then. So nice sign that they're back round that feeder. So it might be that that 4-inch hook length I'm using is a little bit too long. Might just have to trim that down, put a 3-inch one on. Just so we're going to bolt against that feeder a bit quicker. Set the hook. Especially with these F1s and some of the big old ones you find in here, you do have to fish short hook length sometimes, otherwise you just don't get any bites. Another nice little point, just fishing with a nice slack tip. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but there's no tension in it whatsoever. Where we're fishing, we're chucking on a slope. We just don't want to risk that feeder moving, so if we can leave the tip nice and slack, any lines or anything aren't going to move that feeder. We're still going to see the bites for everything, because how the bead works with the feeder, we're going to pick the feeder up and you're going to see that indication on your tip. But the longer I can keep that feeder in place with my bait round it, the better the chance I've got of getting a bite. We've had plenty of signs this cast, but we haven't had a bite as yet, so either the hook bait might be caught up in a bit of something, or we might have just cleared me out and have to recast to regroup them fish. Give it another 30 seconds or so and we'll cast him back out. Thought we'd got away with it then. Thought we'd got one. Ooh, we have. Got away with that one. Just as I was about to pick him up and wind him in. Might be a little chub. Well, that's the beauty of this, it's not selective, it gives you a very good indication what fish are there. You can see we've caught a couple of F1s, a couple of carp, then it goes round and we've got a chub by the feel of it. Yep. Angry little chub. See the hook length's just covered in weed, which is probably why I've just had to sit and wait that little bit for that bite. Greedy little fish. Get that hook out, pop him back. The better the peg is, the more you're just going to catch the F1s and the carp. So often early in the session you find you might catch an odd silverfish, an odd skimmer, or whichever, and then as those carp and F1s start competing for that bait, get used to that feeder going in, you're going to catch more of a bigger fish. So, load him up. Just got away with that, just clipped that branch. And hopefully he goes round again for us. So we've had a cracking couple of hours really on method, just throwing across to that island, one hole, just building that peg up. So bear in mind match days we might have to move lines and keep a few things ticking along to keep fish going in the net, but it's been really good today. Obviously one of the only ones on the banks, we've got plenty of scope, plenty of space to draw fish. So rather than sitting here catching one and chuck all day, I think what we'll do, we'll catch one more for the camera and then we'll call it a day. We'll have a quick look at what we've got in the net, just for curiosity. And oh, there's one. And then we'll go from there. Might have one more after this one actually, if it's this good. Nice and steady, keep pressure on him all the way in. Cracking Bonsai F1. Come on mate. Where is it? There we go, got him. What we'll do, we'll have this cast, then we'll see what we've got in the old net. Never really had to change that mix or anything, that 2-to-1 seemed quite good. That ratio of ground bait to micros. Obviously some days you might have to play about with it, but no, today we've had bites, most casts or signs, so no real reason to change. So we'll have this chuck, we'll have a quick summary, and then we'll have a look at what we've got in the net. Right, so we've decided to call that it for the day. We've had plenty of fish, lovely day really on method, considering we've probably only fished 3 or 4 hours. Obviously talk you through the setup in terms of a feeder and the rod and things, how to get your mix right and how to tweak the mix. Obviously your ratios of ground bait to micros, consistency of your mix and using that atomizer to keep it how you want it. The importance of maggots on the hook so you can see what's in your peg. And all in all, just a really nice way of approaching your fishing, keeping it nice and simple and positive with one rod, and a great way of catching them carp and F1s in the shallow water as it warms up. So we'll quickly get them out, have a look at what we've got, and hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the bank soon. Hopefully we're not far off matches, everything back to normal, so hopefully be able to get a few live matches and things done and rounds ups of things I've been fishing, so we'll keep them coming and see you all soon. So look at that for a cracking couple of hours, fishing a method, ground bait and maggots to the island, a few micros in your mix. Lovely simple day, and you can catch a cracking net of carp and F1s like this on the Bonsai. So hope you've learnt a few bits, and I'll see you out on the bank soon.